US based. Rotary is a very prominent one that's well known. The certificate or master's program. Some of them do require particular citizenship, though even if you don't have that citizenship, they also will let you apply if you have an interest in those particular regions as well. So that's something quite interesting. Fulbright has so many different programs. There are some for a master's PhD, there's some for a postdoc, there's all different types of Fulbright programs, and some are just labeled fellowships as well. One of the fellowships that I wish I could have done was the Humanity in Action Fellowship. Those are really wonderful opportunities to travel abroad, different places around the world to learn more about conflicts. Some of them are also based in the United States, so there are different eligibility factors for that one. And yeah, that's mostly towards undergraduate students, but they do have some fellowships that are for older individuals as well. If anyone's in community college, there's a fellowship that we started last year that offers a mentorship and a summer program with 2 weeks in Washington, D.C. So that's really cool. And hopefully they'll have some further updates for the coming year. VIA Fellowships is quite fascinating. They have different programs all over Asia that you can be part of, and you get to learn about the communities, do some work there. And then for those interested in genocide, there's all different types of fellowships at the Auschwitz for the studies of professional ethics. So if you're clergy, if you're in business, if you're in law, all different types of areas, technology, there's different capacities to join that program. FAO Schwartz is also quite an interesting fellowship for those that are US college seniors. And that's like a 2-year salary-based fellowship, and you get to connect with a nonprofit. And then 2 last highlights I'll share is the America Needs You Fellowship. That's for generally US community college students, undergraduates as well. You have to be first generation and just come from a lot of different backgrounds where there were economically challenging environments. And yeah, that looks like a really interesting one too. And then finally, the Herbert Silville Jr. Peace Fellowship is for those that recently graduated, and they have also placements in Washington, D.C. area and all different types of organizations. So just a few, and there's thousands more. There's something for everyone. And that's one thing I wanted to share about today. Think about your identity. There are fellowships just about your identity, and they're waiting for you to apply for them. So keep that in mind. What I would like to showcase now is some of the fellowships that I've done, which are quite global and open for all different people. United Nations Lion Civilization Fellowship, that's for Middle East and North Africa, Europe, and North American candidates. And usually around the ages of mid-20s to mid-30s, you get to go abroad, meet with a lot of different UN areas, such as those maybe affiliated with connecting the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. And we got invited afterwards to the United Nations in New York, and we wrote a Peacebuilding Recommendations report, which was submitted to the Secretary General Envoy on Youth. And that fellowship still continues onwards. What helped me so much with that fellowship was it brought me to understanding more about dialogue and more opportunities in the dialogue field. Another UN fellowship I had was with UNESCO MGIEP, Tag E, that stands for the Mahatma Gandhi Institute for Education and Peace. It's a long name. And then Tag E is Talking Across Generations in Education. And so they're looking for candidates all over the world. Generally, you have a live dialogue with policymakers. You get a chance to then do a policy paper, which is published on their website. Another interesting fellowship is the Catherine Davis Fellow for Peace. Usually you do an intensive language learning program in Vermont, all different types of languages, and they also may offer perhaps still a conflict resolution certificate, but that would probably be based in California. They're still offering that. Another key fellowship that may interest you is the KaiSID Fellowship, and that focuses on intercultural, interfaith dialogue. You can be from a variety of different backgrounds. If you have an interest in that, you get to travel abroad, different places. Every year it could be different. And you also get a grant to work on an interfaith, interreligious dialogue program that you can create or co-create with a fellow or two. Another fantastic fellowship that opened up so much in my life was the Singapore International Foundation Arts for Good Fellowship. The fellowship itself, they recently are moving on to another chapter, though the foundation is still around. So certainly something to keep in mind. Though what it helped me out so much in looking into is connecting the arts to education. And one of the things that I ended up collaborating in was a conflict resolution workshop that we developed using puppets. So that was something fascinating. Ever since then, I've been using puppets in different classes, and it's been something really special. The World Federation United Nations Association's Peace Fellowship is one that one out of all the ones listed here, that one is a little bit where it's a little bit self-funded in a sense. It's not a lot. That one was online, though they do usually have in person, and that's when you get a chance to go to South Korea, get to go to the demilitarized zone. We got to connect on Zoom with people that escaped from North Korea, and we got to also connect with people all over the world and learn more about how to build peace in the region and look at different case studies that could help locally and globally. Another key fellowship that might be of interest is Germany Close-Up Fellowship. I think it's mostly open towards those from North America, but I did want to mention DAD. It's the Deutsche Academic Exchange Database, and they have a lot of different opportunities that you can go to Germany. So maybe not necessarily that fellowship may be open for everyone, though the academic database in Germany may have some more opportunities. And then finally, looking at a postdoctoral fellowship, the postdoctoral fellowship I had was being a faculty diversity at Ursuline College. And there I was able to develop and teach a course called Intrapersonal Peace Conflict Prevention. It helped be the gap that I needed to continue on in the professional journey of teaching. So those are some examples of selected fellowships. And there's a picture of me here when I was on the UNOC fellowship. And that really changed my life. And I'll share a little bit more about that in the next slide. And so one thing I wanted to mention is CELIA. So the first thing I'll mention is CELIA is I learned about CELIA through the United Nations Alliance Civilizations Fellowship Program. And that's how I became a facilitator. At the time, it was a free program. I think they still are offering scholarships to get a UN certificate in facilitation. You can also sign up for free to do a bunch of different programs that are focused on intercultural dialogue. So they're quite fascinating. Paper Airplanes is for those interested in learning more English or supporting those that want to learn more English. You can either be a mentor or a mentee, and they also offer a conversation spaces, and that's something that's in high demand. So something that I really enjoy doing. Acquaint is something that I also want to highlight. You can sign up for free, and basically it is a intercultural dialogue platform where you have one-on-one conversations with people around the world. There's currently participants in over 100 nations. It's all free. They have micro courses as well on communication skills, conflict prevention. They also offer a certificate after 10 hours of volunteering on the platform, and they also can provide recommendation letters as well. And some of these other organizations can too. It's just that I can certainly share with you that knowing Alex and Catherine, the co-founders of Acquaint, they always are doing their best to support the community, and they do their such a wonderful job in fostering inclusivity and connecting people all over the world. So they're really something to check into, Acquaint, where we can see that we can collaborate with people even though we may have some differences. It's quite fascinating and life-changing. And one other area that I wanted to share is UNESCO Global Youth Community. Through that link right there, you can join UNESCO Global Youth. They are going to have an event uh, soon. There might be some time delay in getting accepted, so certainly take a look at the form and apply. I think it's for youth up till age 35 from all over the world. So you can share that link with anyone you might know who might be interested. And they have different themes that you can connect on: education, inclusion, climate, environment. Some other free opportunities that you can look into is Institute for Economics and Peace, and they have a Positive Peace Academy. Once you've completed that, you can do the ambassador program, which is an opportunity to develop a little bit of a project and get involved in the ambassador community. So that's a great way to continue networking. One other program I'd like to mention that I've had the honor of taking in is the United People Global Leadership Program. It's a free online program once accepted, and it's online, and you get a chance to learn more about sustainability, conflict resolution, meet people all over the world, and you may get a chance to go to Maine and you go on a boat to Hurricane Island and it's remote. So you live sustainably for a week and develop a project there. It's fully funded. So it's something really special and memorable. And that one's, I think, around to the mid 30s of age that you can apply for that one as well. And then just to share lastly, thank you so much for your time. I'm looking forward to connecting more and hearing your questions and discussions. There's so much to share, and I'm also happy to provide my email address if anyone has any further thoughts or just wants to connect more. I'm here for you. Thanks,
Thank,
everyone.
thank you, Yehuda. It was really nicely done. You know, uh, having worked at all levels of higher education, and now with graduate students, I know how important fellowships are for them quite often, uh, and how they can be really useful in positioning somebody in a place where they can see lots of things. So, for instance, there's I mean, I'm sure Yehuda is familiar with the Presidential Management Fellowship, where you kind of work for government and you kind of move around government, right? So, a lot of fellowships are really designed to help you into that next stage. And most fellowship organizations, at least the ones I'm familiar with, support you at the end of the fellowship insofar as they kind of have a network that they're a family. Like I'm a Fulbright grantee and Fulbright has a big family, right? And you know, we had a Fulbright conference last weekend, and you know, it's a very important signature line, right? It's kind of a secret, I would say secret handshake. But so fellowships often give you kind of access to a community. It's not just the experience, it's the community you're getting access to that help you the rest of your professional career, right? And that's why it's important in that respect. You
Mhm.
probably would agree with that, you'd imagine.
Absolutely. Yeah, they've been the catalyst to bring me to places I never thought existed. Being able to connect with fellows around the world and also just collaborate with them all these years and beyond. It's just been something that is priceless. So I definitely feel there's a fellowship out there for everyone, for
Great.
sure.
Good. And I've worked with a pro fellow, who's the director of it? Oh, I can't remember her name.
Maybe it's Vicky. That might be her
Vicky
first.
Johnson. Yeah, Vicky
Mm.
Johnson. Yeah, and there's like we'll say there's a free access, and then there's another level of access that you have to pay for. But she's got a great database also for lots of different opportunities. I mean, you were recommending Profellow. But it does, you know, one of the things I would say is that it takes some effort, and one of the things you have to be cognizant of with fellowship is the timeline. So, for instance, you apply for a fellowship today. When is that fellowship going to start? It may be a year and a year and a half from now, right? So, always think about, well, when is it that I want to start, and how do I work myself backwards to it, right? So, because it isn't an immediate process, because there's often a long time that applications are accepted, right? Yeah, yeah. Think about kind of what you're trying to be, where you're trying to get to, you know, and when that's going to happen. So, questions? Anybody have questions about fellowship? I know we have some graduate students, certainly community college students, other students here. Just open your mics. We're kind of a small group now, but I can just see everybody if they want to ask a question. Nikki says thank you for your time and insight. Obi is saying thank you also. You know, if you provide your contact information, which you have, that's great. And I was at a conference years ago, and Yehuda did this presentation, and I appreciate, and I've used, I think I've used that presentation. I've sent it to people, Yehuda, because you sent it to me, because it is a little bit of a mystery, right? And I think you've kind of pulled it all together, which I think that's really valuable. Yeah. Question.
Thank you.
Question.
Yeah, just one last thing to add is don't forget the email newsletters for a lot of these different places. ProFellow, for example, has an email subscription list that you can subscribe to and other places. And sometimes I've gotten things just because of the newsletters. So that
Right.
helps too. But yes, questions, discussion, really excited to hear.
Any questions, ideas,
Mm, mm,
experiences you've had with fellowships? Anybody
mm.
wants to share? Obi?
Yeah. Thank you so much, David. Hi, Yehuda.
Hi.
Thank you for bringing this up. I think the issue of fellowship is very, very. I think it's something very, very important. From your experience, because I had you've passed through 17 fellowships. I mean, that's amazing. I guess you have still more to do. So, talking about community college students, there are sometimes, challenges, when you apply, you're not accepted. When you apply, you're not accepted. I mean, from your experience, do you think, David, maybe you have to also come in here? Um, what is the interaction between you who have experience, with 17 fellowships and the students? Aside this kind of seminar, is there any point where you need to engage, the students, maybe through lectures or classes, so they will get used to this before this kind of seminars? I'm just, trying to open up a more effective communication, rather than this kind of space, so that students could actually have more, you know, accessible environment to actually get to understand what to do when applying for fellowship. Because sometimes it's not an easy thing, because I applied for some and it's not easy. So, I mean, just
One
your
of the
thoughts.
one of the things that I would say, and I'll let me just say something, and then Yehuda certainly it's his presentation, is that for prestigious fellowships, where a lot of people apply to, often if you're an academic institution, they will help you write the application. So Fulbright is like that. A lot of other ones have that. They have staff sit down with you, and they take a lot of pride in the number of students that get that fellowship, right? So Fulbright in particular, after undergraduate, most Fulbrights who go into a fellow to go Fulbright usually go become an ETA, English teaching abroad, right? They go teach somewhere, right? That's the most popular one. Faculty go into the scholar program where they're teaching their discipline, right? And then their research. And so there's lots of different variations. And Fulbright's got inbound and outbound. For inbound, like Obi, you're in Nigeria, you can actually apply for a Fulbright through the U.S. Embassy to come to the United States for a year, right? And most of it is English teach. I will be teaching your native language or whatever languages, because I know lots of languages in Nigeria. It might focus on that or it might focus on research. So there's what's good about Fulbright, and a lot of the ones that Yehud is talking about are what we call outbound rather than inbound. But Fulbright is inbound and outbound, right? And that's important to know also. So I don't know, Yehud, if you want to add to that.
Yeah, the journey of fellowships is different for each person because fellowships as the application process look very different. And there are also fellowships that are specifically looking for you. So they necessarily be such a large pool of people applying. They may be specifically looking for a particular category of nationality, of age range, of certain studies. And so I've applied for fellowships that have had 4,000 applicants and been chosen for, out of a few. And then I've applied for fellowships where maybe there's I don't know, 20 people to 100 people applying. So it just depends. That's why Google is great. And other things is some fellowships are not really well known as well. And so sometimes you just might be lucky that you find something where maybe not a lot of people are applying towards to.
Yeah.
And you're able to locate something that maybe is brand new. It could be an inaugural fellowship. And
Well,
something.
we at the Ford Center started a fellowship 2 years ago, and the restriction is you have to have been in a Ford Center program, but we pay you a little bit, not a whole lot. It's for a year. So a lot of work, a lot of it is very quiet. You have to kind of go to the organization, kind of, and see if they've got something for you, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen fellowships that say, please email us for information. So there's not even an application on their website. It's just like, please email us and yeah, we'll connect. So there are some out there that are waiting just for you. It's about trying to find them. It's really about doing basically everyone's getting a PhD in research discovery on finding fellowships. You have to look into it, doing a deep dive into all capacities, and there's not one set way to get to that decision. There's all different areas. Just some of the areas that I mentioned today, there's probably a lot more out there. For example, I'm connecting towards looking at look most of the times so I'm based a lot in Canada and United States, but there are a lot of other websites internationally that maybe I don't know about that may offer even more fellowship opportunities, but I'm just not aware of that because I don't live everywhere, unfortunately. So I don't have all access to all the resources. These are just some that are out there, and hopefully some of those resources may be very helpful for you and for anyone. But yeah, I certainly would encourage, just to share with students the ability of looking around. Like, for example, what made them want to apply for a particular community college or particularly any type of program? What brought them there? Then the idea is, okay, what kind of fellowship might I be interested in? And that kind of idea can be planted and a tree may grow. So that's some thoughts there, but there's different thoughts for each person, and I'm happy to connect further as
You've
well.
got one question in the chat. Can some of the fellowships in the U.S. support visas for postdoc international students? So, you're applying, you're an international coming here, and they would support your visa, right?
Yeah, some of them certainly can. Absolutely. You just have to take a look for postdocs. Yes, I know there's a lot of different postdocs for what they mention as the scholars that are coming from communities that have a lot of conflict going on. So they certainly try to bring scholars and postdocs to make sure that they're able to conduct their research and share that while there's maybe some different challenges going on where they may be living. There's also opportunities to even still do some type of area that could be remote as well in some capacity. And so that's something else that can be looked into. But yeah, some of them do provide some capacity for visa.
Yeah.
You just have to take a look and see if they offer that.
And remote fellowships became really popular during the pandemic, and they're still around.
And Yehuda, did you ever get rejected while doing these applications?
Oh, of course, rejections, of course. And for me, the rejections have always been something that I have always really appreciated in a sense of having understanding of maybe something that did I really want that fellowship? And then the funny part is, had I done that fellowship, I would have missed out on something else. So that's why sometimes what you think you may want is not what you need.
Yeah.
So and that's why I really have appreciated because, for example, I was looking into opportunities for a certain possibilities, and then all of a sudden, had I done that, I would have been so focused on that full time, I wouldn't have heard about all the other things that popped up over the next few months later. And
Yeah.
gotten those and done them. So sometimes what you might think is like, oh no, I didn't get it. Then it turns out like there's a whole many miracles just right around the corner and you just didn't even realize it. So I certainly would say that that's why the journey is just been amazing. And I would always encourage continue to look because you never know what you might find.
Yeah, that's a Rolling Stone song. You don't always get which you sometimes need. So thank
Yeah.
you. Round of applause for Yehuda. Thank you for being here.